Good morning. How are you on this Monday after all the holidays? Anybody who took off for the holidays, I am guessing today is the first day that you're going back to work. And you probably were struggling with it, weren't you? I worked last night, my outside gig, and it was slow. I went in and was there for 4 hours and then came home. Sometimes going in isn't worth the amount of money that I'm making from there, and I'm trying to decide where 2026 really is going to take me. I submitted an inquiry this morning on teaching at our community college in the continuing education department. Since I am a published author, it does make me credible to teach the class. On top of the fact that, I teach how to put a vision board together and I teach group painting classes. So teaching is not foreign to me. So, fingers crossed. Odds are it won't pay very much. But that is okay because it is my foot in the door to do something different, to veer out of what I have been doing for the last 32 years. Can you do that? Can you make that pivot into another line of work, another direction, another avenue? I'm Kitryn Marie, reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, a writer, a speaker, life, and a business coach. Teach a variety of art classes, working on teaching more communication type classes. I have had a few sales on my book, When He Had Her, available on Amazon. And it's okay to plug and promote who you are and what you do, because you want to land in the right marketing spot that, makes you be a success, helps you earn extra, helps you be credible to your trade or your craft. I always say when you have a service, it is always good to have something that you can sell as extra. Excuse me. When you are selling something, it's good to have a service to go along with product, kind of have that wraparound effect. I love to teach. First of all, I love to talk, and anybody who listens to anything, I have to say, that's always a win-win to me, and there's nothing better than being paid to speak, to have a platform. And I will remind whomever, you don't need to pay to play on any of these social media platforms. They are not a publishing site. They are just an open dialogue of speaking, getting your opinion out there, getting your thought out there, getting your credibility so you can influence somebody to do something on the right side of something. And when I'm teaching my vision board class, in life coaching, it's always the positive. I'm always trying to focus on what can I do to help you see something from another perspective. This class that I want to teach, when you're writing a book, it is the who, the where, the when, the how, the why, and who are the main characters, and who is the protagonist, and who is the antagonist, and how does the relationship evolve. Now you can reflect that back to your own life, and you look at who you are involved with and how are they playing a role in your life, and what is the storyline that you have with whoever the character is in your life or in your book. You know, what is the background? What is the scenery? How is that setting up the relationship in your own personal life or in the book that you're writing? You know, why did these two people come together? And how did they come together? And where are they thinking the relationship is going to go? Building that storyline, because we all have a story. We all have a backstory. And once you get to a point where that backstory no longer matters, you start to create the new story. You start to create that new endeavor that is going to see you through to the end. You know, the build-up, the crescendo, and then the ending of a book or an ending of a chapter where you go into another chapter. And that's even in your personal life, you know. It's not life sentences. Excuse me. I have like all kinds of drainage. Finally, after being sick on and off for 3 weeks, everything is starting to drain. So I feel like it's like caught right here in my throat. But things aren't life sentences. They're just chapters in our lives. You know, when I was putting together When He Had Her, it is fictional. There are things within the book that I did take from my personal life, but everything has a twist. And there are characters that I have been told it would make a great Lifetime movie if I could just get it in front of the right producer, you know, director. But it's the characters in our own lives that surround us that build this storyline with who we are and what we're made of and what we want to become. And that's the thing about the human progress. You know, the process of you learn, and from what you are learning from, you go on to do something else from the experience that you had. You don't want to repeat bad cycles. You don't want to perform out of character. It's about getting to the most authentic person that you can be, understanding who your influences really were when you were growing up, and how much of that you took on that persona because you imitated what you saw. There were no writers. Excuse me again. There were no writers in my family. They were musicians. My grandpa was an accomplished guitarist. Accomplished. He was brilliant. And it always makes me sad when somebody has that kind of a talent and they die. Why didn't God design it that that person could just give that talent to somebody else so it would continue on? You know, my mom, she sang semi-professional up until she died. She had an up-and-coming career till her life ended. I can carry a tune on a good day. My sister can sing better than I. They encouraged her to sing. They encouraged her to perform. The dynamic between the oldest and the youngest, and then, you know, being mixed in with all the other cousins that we were raised with and everything. And I talked about that yesterday, the dynamic of being the oldest, the middle, the youngest, and only, and so on and so forth. But they encouraged her to sing. They did not encourage me to be creative. That was something I learned all on my own. When a child is left to their own defenses and their own devices, they develop either hidden talents or they develop this personality that nobody understands where it even came from. And when there's the quiet child, the one that kind of blends in, they observe everything and they internalize everything that they are learning, and how it all comes out throughout life is based on the craft that they have developed. My grandma was a seamstress. She was a wonderful cook. She always wanted to have her own restaurant. You know, her brothers had a restaurant. Her first cousin, her sons had a very prestigious restaurant here in St. Louis, and it just recently closed after years of being open. You know, my aunt was a hairdresser, another aunt was a florist, 2 aunts were a florist. You know, going to school, I was the social one. You know, I was a pom-pom girl. I hung out with all the jocks, all the sports players. You know, my high school love, he was a soccer addict. You know, I graduated high school. You know, I didn't excel in high school because I was so insecure with who I was and what I wanted to do. But the first 5 years of any child's life is the most impressionable. You know, my mom, way back in the day, before she had met my dad, you know, she was the front receptionist at one of our news stations here in St. Louis. So as a little kid, I got to run around the back set of a news station. You know, I saw the big boom lights, I saw the desk, I saw the microphone, I saw all the cameras. And that left pretty much an impression in my mind. You know, through high school, being a pom-pom girl, I could perform. You know, I had a string of different friends, being social, having a personality, which later lent, you know, a great offering into the food and beverage industry, because that's how most servers and bartenders make their money, off their personality, off the hospitality and being Italian, and my grandma wanting a restaurant and food being front and center for everything. It later down the line continued with the chapter of my life. My biggest high school claim to fame, I was the drunken maid in Noel Coward's See How They Run. Got a standing ovation. It was the performer in me that I think lay dormant up until really social media kind of took effect. I have that ability to have that hand, mind, eye coordination. That's how I teach my group painting classes. You know, if you can envision it and you can see it and you can put it in a form, a shape, you can create anything. And that be whether it's on canvas, whether it's through drawing, whether it's through writing. You know, there is a practicum that comes with it. You have to know how to put sentences together. You have to know how to put paragraphs together. You have to be able to, and it's a gift, to see it in your mind as a movie and then put it into action, whether it be words, whether it be video, whether it be speaking, whether it be doing your job. You are performing in your job. You are completing a task. You are creating. And that's the beauty of being a human. Knowing the who, the why, the how, the where, the when, and then being able to implement all of that into your life. You know, with social media, it hasn't been around that long. You know, we all started out with Facebook, and I think most of us are getting away with Facebook. I love TikTok. I can scroll through TikTok forever. Some of it is overwhelming. Some of it is too much information. Some of it is a lot of carnival barkers. You know, they tell you the perk of everything, but they leave off all the real parts. You know, all of those that are saying, I'm making $10,000 and $36,000 a month. They are giving you a false narrative. They're not telling you about all the other things behind the scenes or the money that they are putting out in order to put that narrative together for you. They are not showing the real revenue. They are not showing the knit and the grit. And I was looking this morning to see how many e-commerce stores are just basically fronts. And overall in revenue, that's probably about $50,000 a year is what is being shown on how much people make through e-commerce, because the sites are all saturated. You know, as we were going through the pandemic and everything was like online, everybody and their brother thought that they could do e-commerce. They thought they could be content creators and get paid. They thought they could be huge influencers. You know, very lonely people who were looking for others to sit in their misery, you know, hanging on their opinion, because most people like to live vicariously through other people. And I've always been a hands-on. I like my people in front of me. You know, it's why I've done well in the restaurant industry. I like my people in front of me. I can entertain my table. I can use my personality to earn mostly a decent living. You know, when I am teaching, I am in front of people. You know, I have an audience of some sort. Not that I need anybody to hang on my words, but I am hoping that I am inspiring, that I am entertaining, that I am educating. Because once you learn something, you can never unlearn it. And once you see something, you can never unsee it. And once you recognize patterns and behaviors in your own life and who the big key players are, when you are a crafty, creative person, it's so easy to write, to paint, to perform. But what about you? What is it that you can do that you can veer into something else in your life? Something that's going to bring you more satisfaction, be a more fulfilled human being, taking a gift, taking a talent, and creating a business from nothing. This is how I started, with nothing. I put a vision board together, understood the dynamics of how each outline in that board can work for you when you're talking about your home, your family, your travel, food, your faith, your creative endeavors. You stop to think how that even started. Who was the influencer in your life? And when did you decide at some point this was the path you were going to go? And now you're looking at your life and you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? How am I continuing to do this other than repetitive routine? And really, and I say this all the time, bad tapes playing in your head that has convinced you to be a slave to a corporation that is only benefiting them and not benefiting you. I talk about that in my business coaching class. I talk about it in my life coaching class, putting a vision board together. My business coaching is teaching creative-minded women how they can take their idea, implement it, and then turn it into a business that you can earn. Business coaching class is $95. It is a private class. Take what you want, take what you don't want. It is a class. It is not a course. Anybody who is signing up for courses, you are just handing all your money over to them. You will not learn one thing from a course. If you are, I'll retract that, if you are taking a course at a college or a continuing education, you are taking that course so you can learn. And typically, it's very affordable. I think the class that I want to teach, possibly to sign up for it, might be $125 at that, versus somebody paying $10,000 for a course. Let's use reasoning here. You know, my group painting classes, I provide all the supplies. You must have a minimum of 11. The fee is $45 each. You choose your theme. The vision board class, putting a in life coaching, putting a vision board together, it is $65. You can do it in a group, you can do it in private. It's one foot in front of the other, recognizing what you were able to do from what you have experienced in life, in real time, the things that you have dreamed up in your head, that you can see it play out so you can earn and be happy and healthy and possibly fall in love. You know, you want to be with the right person who's going to help expand your mind, broaden your horizons. You don't want to be with anybody who is a energy vampire, who sucks the life out of you, who constantly walks around going, woe is me, and it's everybody else's fault but their own. Talk about that in my vision board class when we talk about that relationship and those dynamics of how we get together with people. You know, open dialogue. That is the best way to learn anything from anyone. Knowing how to speak, knowing how to bring things up without really triggering that other person. Self-accountability. That is the key to this life. Communicating, putting it all out there, understanding that person's personal needs and how you can do as their partner, meet the need, and vice versa. You know, it's not always going to be sunshine and roses and rainbows. You know, me personally, I choose to live on Candy Cane Lane because it works for me. I cannot help that other people refuse to see what's on the other side of the life that they think they need to live. I have no tolerance for users, abusers, cheaters, you know, and for all you women out there who are crying, you lost this guy, you lost this guy. You didn't lose the guy. You let go of somebody who did not know how to be faithful. You let go of somebody who did not know how to respect you. You let go of the dead weight that was keeping you down and holding you back. So for all you women who are crying and crying over spilt milk, remember, that person is no longer your issue or your problem, and you have become a better individual because of what you learned, and sadly you had to go through betrayal and heartache and things that most people will never understand what you had to endure. And briefly, because I always say I'm not a doctor, I am not a psychologist, but we do talk about that in my vision board class when we are talking about life coaching and recognizing how and why you attract the same type of people. Once you're aware of it, you can never be unaware of it. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what 2026 looks like for you. I would love to know what you want to learn how to do. You know, where do you want your life to go from this point on? I am still in that same, I want to move. I want to teach on my property. I want to sell my merchandise on my property. I want to have some farm animals. That has not changed. I miss my Ruby girl so much. So much. And I will have that experience again, but it needs to be under the right circumstances. I'm not giving up on my dream or my goals because somebody else cannot see the other side of the misery that they are living in. But I am Kitryn Marie, an artist, a writer, speaker, life and a business coach, published author when he had her available on Amazon. You know, for today, for tomorrow, be happy, be blessed, be thankful for everything. Remember, fate turns on a dime. It is up to you to decide what side of that coin you want to be on. It is up to you to be accountable and responsible and boast and brag and market and brand who you are and what your identity is and how you can make wherever you are a better place to be. Y'all take care, and I'll see you real soon.